we're back here with another Movies That Matter. And this time, I think we've got quite a different film to first two entries. But this week, we're speaking with Dan. Would you like to quickly just do a quick introduction for yourself, Dan? Just a general.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Dan. I've very much lived life as and like very much engineering of. Yeah, not sure what else to say really.
You can tell Dan is very modest. Yeah, so first of all, what are your kind of film watching habits like? Like, how often are you watching films? Like, what kind of things generally do you watch these days?
uh, these days I tend to watch, tend to enjoy a lot more of the mix between action, like quite action films, particularly and specifically like Second World War films. Actually, quite
Yep.
enjoy just because I have quite an interest in that time period. So very much like Saving Private Ryan's probably still got to be right up there as
Yeah.
uh, like a classic Second World War film. And actually, that reminds me, I still need to go and watch Dunkirk at some point soon.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's which, considering that came out, I think a few years ago now. I still haven't actually got around to seeing that yet.
But no, I think there's a connection there because, like, the film we're going to talk about in particular today, it's another kind of a historical one, and that is The Railway Children, specifically the 1970 version.
1970s, film adaptation.
Um,
No, there was a TV. It's based on the
Novel.
novel by E.Nesbit, and then I believe there was a TV series based on it.
Yes, because there was like a BBC adaptation that was released 2 years before the film, because Jenny Agutter actually played the same part in both. One of those quirks of fate.
Yeah, but despite how obviously us talking about this film, I haven't actually gone and watched the TV series.
Yeah, so can you remember, when you first saw the film and sort of how you first came sort of into contact with it?
Uh, it I can't remember how old I was when I first watched it. Obviously, this film came out. It's got to be if this is 90, about 14 years before I was born. So I can't quite remember how old I was, but I remember watching. I'd got to be 7 or 8, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think pretty sure it would have been because at the time I just loved trains,
Right. Yeah.
and it also helped that like my granddad on my dad's side, he had this massive garage in the back garden with this massive train set.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I remember going from right when as like I started walking, him showing me it, and that just got me my love for anything trains related.
Yeah.
Earliest memories of watching this are just like seeing these three young children around this like the age of steam trains.
Yeah. The trains was the hook
Yeah,
the hook that drew you in.
yeah, and and even now it's like whenever I watch it, because I think for me it's like it more or less a yearly ritual that I'll go back and watch this film.
Yeah.
And I do go back to that childhood, me being a child,
Yeah.
and loving this film and wishing I was back in like 1905 and
Yeah.
being able to walk along the train tracks sort of era.
Yeah. Because I think that's one of the strengths of the film. It's got that very kind of, it's got the very kind of idyllic picture of countryside England in early 1900s, and it's one of those films. It's very much from like the children's point of view. It's very much how they experience everything, isn't it?
Yeah, and just how they was one thing it took me to obviously a lot later in life is that, and actually began to appreciate that it is actually very much purely from the child's point of view.
Yeah.
Because and with the whole, obviously their father being arrested like within the first 5 minutes of the film, but because it's portrayed from the children's point of view, they know that their dad's gone away, but
they don't really know why, do they?
why?
Yeah.
And it's not until nearly like an hour into the film where Bobby, the older daughter, actually realizes this, and actually finding out that obviously her mum didn't really want them to know, and just protect them from it.
And it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because even the mother is she's very much kind of on the sidelines. Like, she doesn't really factor into a lot of the film, apart from kind of the phase where she gets sick. But apart from that, she's kind of this kind of figure who's very much on the side of things.
Yeah, very much like a secondary character. A secondary character being, and the primary characters are very much the three children.
The main adult character we have is the porter at the train station.
Oh yeah, is it Perks?
Yeah, Perks. Yeah.
But yeah, he is very much another character, which does actually very much comes to the forefront when they do have to move to the country in this small country town, and becomes quite good friends to the three children, and actually takes them under his wing. And
he becomes this kind of mentor. Well, not quite mentor, but this kind of, I don't know how to describe it, almost saint-like figure, almost, because because we find out kind of as the film goes on that he's done all sorts of things for all the other people in the town. And
yeah,
I think there's a bit, isn't there, where they find out it's his birthday and they get him presents from the sort of people in the town.
They go around to like everyone in the town, and that the amount of people actually who respect him and something to give him on his birthday.
Yeah, it feels strangely, I think that part of it's strangely kind of reminiscent of It's a Wonderful Life, like this kind of idea of having a character that everybody in the town has a good story about, the time when this character helped them out. And
yeah,
very similar. So you said you watch it kind of yearly, and it helps sort of give you that kind of, bring you back on that kind of childlike kind of feeling. I mean, is there anything else you can sort of say about like why it's such a strong kind of perennial favorite for you?
I think it always hits home, because I think this mentioned earlier, it's like you could say, particularly with obviously Bobby, the older daughter, I think it's due to this film where I actually when I watched it as a child and appreciated, because of watching this film, that parents might hold
stuff back.
Stuff back, but not because they don't, just to help like protect you, and in some ways, just like their mum held back like the true reason behind what's going on with their father, and a little bit of that whole, from a child's life, see Bobby going through that, finding out what truly happened, having to, and kind of that breaking of the like childhood view of that everything's going perfect and in the world, and despite your parents might help, like not tell you everything, to help for whatever reason to protect you as a child from that, but there's always going to be that point where the glass just shatters, and I think just by what I remember watching it as a young child and beginning to appreciate that, as that like parents might not always tell you everything, and that it's okay to do that.
But they might not tell you everything, but fingers crossed they mean well. And I guess it makes sense, doesn't it, that Bobby is the eldest child. She's kind of the one, because I think she's kind of late teens, I think, isn't she supposed to be? So it kind of makes sense that she's the one that kind of has the realization, and she's the one that kind of has that arc, I guess, of becoming an adult almost, because she kind of finds out there's more going on.
Yeah, but I'm not. off the top of my head, I'm not sure how old the character is supposed to be in the film. I think it's got to be about 14, 15.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's hard to tell because I think the factoid I found out or I saw earlier was Jenny Agutter was 17 when she filmed this. So obviously she's played the same part 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So she would have been 15 at that point. But what was it? But Sarah Thomset, I think, is the actress playing the younger sister, was actually 20, so was actually older than Jenny Agutter at the time.
Yeah, because I think, she was. Yeah, I remember reading that. It was like she's 20 when she was played this role as. Yeah, I think for the younger sister, she was only supposed to be like 11, 12.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things where no wonder when you're kids and you like when you are a kid yourself and you watch these things, and like there's that thing, is there, where like children of fiction seem much older than you feel, and part of that is because so often they're played by people who are in fact
a lot older
than the parts they're playing. But yeah, because apparently the Sally Thompson, she was under sort of strict orders not to be seen like drinking or out late at night whilst they were filming.
Oh, okay.
It's like the public at large did not realize that she was 20, so trying to create or maintain this illusion that she was a child.
I never actually realized that myself. Obviously I knew she was 20 playing when they were filming this, but I'm not surprised that they didn't want to break that illusion at the time.
Yeah,
when it got released back in like the 70s, and it got released
back in the day when that kind of maintaining that kind of illusion was still possible. I mean, impossible these days with the internet and everything. Like everybody would know.
Yeah, modern days it's like Facebook and Instagram and good old Google.
Yeah, and I think and the film does kind of reflect the book that it's based on as well, because it's quite episodic in nature, because they have like almost like separate different little adventures throughout the film. And I think that's because the book itself was one of these ones that was released as a serial, so it was kind of released serialized in newspapers.
Oh, okay.
The book was so the book is very structured in that kind of separate chunks kind of.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. The film is, I've never actually thought about it like that, but thinking back to the actual film, you can clearly see different chapters in their life while staying at the Three Chimneys house. You have obviously the period, obviously with the Russian refugee that comes and stays with them, and so you had that little story arc. You also had the story arc with private school boy who ended up being the nephew of the gentleman on the train, and where they actually put him up and looked after him. Which all of these are quite their own independent mini story arcs.
Yeah,
within their time at the Three Chimneys house.
I think I wonder if that's one of the things that does make it appealing to people, particularly when they're younger, because it's like, rather than it being one overarching story, it's almost there's like kind of a bookend of a story, and then like about 3-4 smaller stories like in the middle.
Yeah.
So in terms of like, I guess, attention spans for people when they're younger, that kind of works, I guess.
Yeah, but it's all. Yeah, very much. Yeah, like you do have that bookend of like the stuff. You have the first 5-10 minutes where obviously the father gets taken away, and obviously the final like 5 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes of the film where he returns. But then within that, you can have these like mini story arcs of what's there going on, and you don't really need to real linking between those smaller story arcs. So it's particularly when you're young, you don't have to really keep track of what's going on.
Yeah.
Overall.
Do you have? I assume. Well, I assume the shots of the trains would be particular highlights for you with the train obsession. But do
Oh
you have any particular
yeah.
favorite? Do you have any particular like favorite parts from it?
I think for me is I think one of the key parts is, which is probably one big thing so with the film, is when you have the mini landslide happens in the film, and I genuinely thought, they describe it in the film as like magic, and
Yeah,
I remember watching it. I genuinely thought, even though I knew it was a film, but to get them to actually do that, I genuinely thought that's got to be magic for them to actually do that
yeah,
from a filming point of view. But then just from the film, I just see, I felt I could just try to relate to that, being at the time being round about the same age as these three children.
yeah.
What would, just to see that they were, wonder what I would do if I was them, and just for
Right,
them
yeah.
to actually go down and actually
Signal the train and
try and signal the train, which in real life would have been a very dangerous situation, but even for them would have been quite, they're conscious trying to stop the train.
because I think I was reading as well earlier that apparently as recently as 2013. Well, I say as recently, but apparently in 2013, the BBFC, the Film Classification Board, released a statement because they'd had a complaint about, they'd received a complaint about that sequence because the children were going onto the railway track.
Oh, okay.
That might influence, kids today to go on the rail lines. I mean, basically, the BBFC released a statement saying, "Don't be daft," pretty much, noting that train lines were much different and
Yeah.
well, not Victorian age, but 1900s. The rail lines were very different, and
Yeah, it's definitely a very different era for the train lines. Now it's a lot more safety first, and like you see, yeah, like modern days, like the only times you actually come anywhere near the railway track like that is if it's like level crossings or anything like that.
yeah, or if it's one of the kind of heritage railways, where you go for your Sunday afternoon and
Oh yeah.
have a ride on a steam train.
Which just takes me back to going on a like Bluebell Railway down on the south coast with like various family members, like very much just granddad and
Yeah,
my dad, and just being in awe about all these steam trains around me.
I mean, let's face it, we all still enjoy steam trains. Obviously, it's steam trains because the book was written, when it was written,
Yeah.
and it's set in the 1900s. But it does allow them to have that great kind of sequence at the end where Bobby had that kind of thing where she's just been feeling that something isn't right, so she goes out and she heads down to the station, and then there's like a train pulls in and a few people get off,
And there's lots of
the big
smoke.
that's like blocking her view, and of course, that's the classic moment, isn't it, where the smoke clears and there's her dad
Standing at the end of the platform, and that always, that despite having lost track of how many times I watched this film, that end scene where the smoke just disappears, and just as she's walking down the platform, suspecting something or someone's there, for it to reveal it's her dad, that gets me every single time.
one of those I've just got some dirt in my eye moments.
Yeah, well, very much so. And despite, I'm 36 now, and I still, whenever I watch it, I still have a bit of dust in my eye, which I just need to clear out of that. And despite having watched it so many times, it's got to be over 30 times I've watched that film now, and it's.
I mean, it's great. I mean, I love the fact that people can have that kind of reaction to films that they have seen like so many times that have just become like part of their lives. I love the fact that people can still have that kind of level of emotional connection to it.
Yeah. And I think, and even just after that, where the two of them just walk up to the house, and she ends up just letting her dad go into the house by himself.
Yeah, because you get it's done in a way, isn't it, where you kind of get a double hit of it, because you get her reaction on the train, and then you get like the rest of the family kind of reacting.
Yeah,
It's like you get the kind of it's dad moment for a second time.
yeah, and it's, I think for me that's the realization at that age where she actually appreciated that she, as the character Bobby, has gone from being a child at the start of the film to being quite a young adult and mature. Yeah. And despite the fact she's just got her dad back, appreciates that her dad and mum want some alone time together.
Yeah.
And that she takes her to a younger brother and sister away for a little bit to allow them to do that.
So I guess it's almost three, isn't it? Yeah, Bobby and her dad on the platform. Then when they get home, and then almost kind of you have the scenes of the three children now actually living completely an idyllic life, because they've got dad back, as well as living like in these picturesque surroundings.
And just that final scene of them, just the three of them just walking down the garden together in the middle of this like very idyllic, beautiful countryside.
There've definitely been some more versions of the story kind of filmed after this, but I think this is still like the definitive version, to the point where even people who've not actually seen the film will recognize that image of like the three kids running. I think there's that sequence where they sort of running down by the train line. Like everybody recognizes that sequence and where it's from, even if they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And this is for a film that is, 50 years plus old now?
It got released in, I think it got released in 1970. So that's, what's that,
51.
51, 51 years ago. So I think that scene, that particular scene where they're running down to stop the trains with and like waving the red petticoats is even if you haven't actually seen the film in its full entirety, that scene is very much
part of the cultural consciousness of, I guess, of this country.
Not sure how other way to describe it, but it's something that's like pretty much as an image quite well known amongst a lot of people, despite even if you haven't actually seen the film altogether. So it's,
I think it's probably true as well that it's probably still a fairly good chance, like on any given Sunday you could probably channel hop and find it playing. What it feels like anyway. It feels like one of those, to me anyway, it feels like one of those kind of comfort blanket films almost, that's nearly like, that's always that I connect with a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
mentally, if that kind of makes sense.
And I've just, funny enough, I just found today that it's actually available on Amazon Prime, and I was like, this is very good to know. So whenever I feel like it, I can just jump on and watch it.
Yeah, it's always good. And I totally have like cinematic comfort blankets, as I call them, the sort of films that if you're feeling a bit down or whatever, you can just put on and just kind of lose yourself a bit and feel better.
But for me, this is definitely one of those films where I could just lose myself in, and regardless of what's going on in the real life, I could maybe be feeling a bit low one day, and this film always like picks me up afterwards after watching it, and just I could just enjoy watching it and just living as I was in the film.
Yeah. If you were trying to, or if you had to recommend it to somebody who had never seen it and didn't know anything about it, how would you do that? Like, what would be how would you convince somebody to watch it?
Oh God, that's a tough one for me. It's, I think just largely just because it's just try to take away my love of the film to actually try and encourage someone. I think I think it'd probably just be too. I yeah, there's just I don't know. It feels just like a really good. Like I was even to a certain. I don't know really. This is
in a strange way. It's almost a recommendation in of itself. If you could tell somebody that there's this film and I love it, but I can't tell you why I love it, but I love it. Like that's almost kind of a recommendation in and like itself. If you kind of see what I mean.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing I could actually put. It's nothing that I can really put into words myself as to tell you why, like this, like you or anyone has to watch this film. It's. I just find it just so like some like many like coming of age powerful films.
Yeah.
For me, and I think if you ever grew up, if at any stage you ever thought, you want to be like it, when you're a kid and you either want to be like a firefighter, or I think a lot of people I've at some point did want to be like a train driver.
Oh yeah.
And just like rekindle that childhood memory of, even if you were never actually around during the age, like steam train age, there's always that.
It also almost kind of has that feeling of what I think we all kind of slightly idealize, but what we all kind of remember kind of summer holidays being like when you were a child, like these kind of that feeling of these days that used to seem like they lasted forever, and you were particularly in the school holidays when you were free just to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and the school holidays like typically be about like 6 or 7 weeks long, and that at the time at that age seemed like a whole eternity.
Yeah. And then as we all get older, 6 weeks feels like nothing.
Yeah. It's just like, a blink of an eye, and the next thing you know, a whole year's gone past. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I've just saw a note as well there that apparently Jenny Agutter has actually been in 3 versions of it. Apparently she was in a version in 2000 where she played the mother.
Oh, okay.
So she's played like 2 generations in that family now.
Yeah, I knew. Actually, I think I remember some. Yeah,
we're both kind of going, oh right, yeah. I think it again illustrates that point that like the 1970 version is the version because
so and even though there was like obviously not 2000 version and obviously the whole 1968 TV series.
And I mean, and again, I did double check with you, but when you said the Railway Children, like this was the version that I immediately assumed you were talking about.
You sent me a message to say just to confirm it was definitely this one out of the obviously what we're now finding out that there's been like 3 different adaptations of the original book, and so it's this the 1970s film was the one it's just talking about this film just brings back so many fun memories of just like I usually get by watching the film with just being 8 and what.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess, combination of like fond memories of both being a child, but also of watching the film as well.
Yeah. Oh, got that. Like that warm, fuzzy feeling of just being curled up on the sofa watching it. Fond memories.
Yeah, is there anything else like off the top of your head you want to kind of say?
No, not at all. Beyond, I've now got to go. I now want to go back and actually watch the 1968 TV series.
Yeah.
Of it, as well as the 2000. Is it remake? Is it a film from the 2000?
I think so. I think sounds like it was might have been a made for TV kind of thing, but it's like an hour 48 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to go back and actually watch both of those like films and series again. Well, I say again, but for the first time.
Yeah.
And just really compare, like, at least for me, does it have that same effect by watching both of those to watching the 1970s version of the. Yeah, so that's definitely something I'm actually quite looking forward to actually take out from this.
So, Thank you to Dan for sharing his passion for the Railway Children with us. We'll have more movies that matter coming up soon. And if you would like to share with us a movie that means more to you, please do get in touch.